Hey guys, this is Jake with P3. In this video we are going to show you how to install your display portion of your boost or multi-gauge into the vent of your BMW E82 1 Series. We've got our OEM vent here and we've got our display, so the first thing we'll do is to make sure our gauge works properly. You can do this at home just by plugging your gauge into your OBD2 port on your car. Go ahead and start your car up and make sure it powers up, make sure the buttons work, make sure it's giving you information. Just want to make sure that you're avoiding any problems before you install in your dash. Alright, so this one looks good. We'll go ahead and get started. On these vents, what we want to do is take the face of the trim off of the vent. That'll give us access to these lower 2 or 3 slats that our display is going to take the place of. So I like to start on this side, and most of the time just with your fingers you can just start peeling. You can peel basically the trim up and around and to get it off of the locking tabs, like so. All the way around. You want to make sure that the locking tabs aren't catching onto the vent slats, because you can pull them all out. It's a lot easier if you leave it into the vent. Make sure the slats don't come flying out. There's also a tab in the middle of here that you need to disconnect that kind of gets stuck. They can hold you up as well. If a slat gets out of place or something like that, it's not a big deal. It's easier if they don't just all come exploding out of the vent housing. Alright, so we'll come to the other side. Go ahead and disconnect that. Should just roll off. There we go. Alright, so now we have the vent slats here, the horizontal slats, and these are all going to have to come out, and they can kind of come out as an assembly if you're careful. So I like to take my finger and just kind of disconnect each one individually. Just kind of snap it out of place there. Work your way up. And they'll eventually all become disconnected, and then do the same thing on the right side. Kind of pop them all out of place. Okay, so now if you kind of grab onto the bottom one and pull, it'll start to come loose, and at this point you can grab a hold of this slider bar that holds everything together, and then a couple may fall out. It's not a big deal if they do, but just try to pull them all out as a unit. And so the bottom one's actually not connected, so that's not a big deal. And then we're going to get rid of the next 2 as well. So we can go ahead and just pull these out like so. Set those aside and then put that back into place. And like I said, if they fall apart, it's not a big deal. Just kind of put them back together, snap back into place. You will want to make sure, if you have a bunch fall off at once, it might be a little difficult to get them all back in order, because it does matter where they go. So if you kind of try to keep them all together, you'll save yourself a little trouble. Okay, at this point we can go ahead and put this back together, but what I like to do first, just to keep clutter out of the way, is get rid of this part right here. So you can just snip that like so right here. And then also you can leave these 2 bottom ones if you ever think you may reinstall your vent slats and return your vent to stock. Since we are pre-installed and these to ship out, we just go ahead and snip that off just to get extra clutter out of the way down in there in the vent, like so. Okay, so now we need to come to our vent here, and we do need to pull this vent slat out of place. We do this because the cable wraps around. I guess you don't have to, but it does make the side-to-side motion work a lot better. So I just go ahead and snip the slider bar so that now it can move separately. And then I also snip the top peg, and now it can just come right out. And then you might just tap it a couple times, and then the peg will fall out that you just cut off. Once again, that's optional. It just makes the cable installation a lot easier. You can do it without doing that, but you may lose a little bit of horizontal movement. Alright, so we can just drop the display in. We want to make sure the cable's not twisted. The pink side of the cable should go towards the bottom of the vent housing. And we'll just feed that through underneath the air flap in the back, like so. Just pull that all the way through. And now our display is going to sit in the bottom and 3rd from the bottom tabs on each side, just like that. It just sits right in there. Nice snug fit. Okay, at this point you can just put the horizontal slats back in. What I like to do when I'm doing a pre-installed unit is just to take a little extra time and go ahead and take the cable and glue it over to the sidewall just to help keep it out of the way of the horizontal slats a little more. You don't have to do that, but it does make installation a little easier, and it'll give you a little extra movement out of your horizontal flaps. So I'll take a little dab of glue down in there, and then just push the cable back into the corner. And you can do that with any type of adhesive or 3M tape or anything like that. And all that's going to do is take the cable and just kind of push it over into that corner that's created right there when you remove that flap. Okay, now we can set our horizontal slats back on. Since we do retain side-to-side motion on this vent, we want to make sure that the fork here for our slider bar, I don't know if you can see that in the video, we want the fork to straddle this bar on the vertical slat. That way we retain control of those. So we want to drop these down in, and I like to start with the bottom so that the fork can be aligned for sure. And like that one, like those just fell out, that's not a big deal, you just put them back in. Just got to be careful with it. Okay, so these literally just snap back into place, like pop in like so. Pretty easy. And then we'll have to make sure we get these back in the right order. Looks like the shorter ones go towards the top, longer towards the bottom. Just like that. And those will just snap back into place. Now they're in, we're good. Okay, may want to snap that over just a little more. Okay, now our face can go back on, and I like to start at the bottom and get these tabs right here lined up with these nubs. So I'll kind of make sure that's in position underneath there. Kind of work my way up the side. You also need to make sure this tab in the middle here and then also this tab in the back get lined up, because they can kind of hold you up if you wait till the end. Sometimes it can take a little time just to make sure you're getting it around all the pieces correctly. This one can be a little difficult since there's so many horizontal slats. It's a real long vent. But you just take your time and go slow and you'll get it together. Okay, so that side's good. Come around this side. Just want to make sure it's fully seated and snapped together. Like that. And then once you get it all together, you want to make sure your slats still work correctly, which work good. And then we can come around to the back side, and we want to make sure this cable's not all twisted up to make sure it doesn't interfere with the flaps. And what I like to do is I'll just let it rest naturally, maybe push a little bit of slack in, just a little bit, and then go ahead and pinch it in place against the bottom of the vent. Like that, and it holds right in place for me. So now if you're at home, you at this point can go ahead and install it. Just go ahead and fold that cable right around the back of the vent and pinch it, and it is made to bend like that, and that foam will take up the gap there. So once this gets inserted into the plenum in the vehicle, that cable is not going anywhere. It's held in place just like it's designed to be. When we do installs at the shop, I like to go just a little farther and just make a little recess, a little groove right here for the cable to go into. It just makes it just a little more cleaner, a little OEM. Makes it install just a tad easier. And then I'll take a small screwdriver, something like that. Sometimes you can just pull the foam away with your fingers. Just separate the foam from the housing there to give your cable a place to run through. And then just run that through there like that. Once again, we want to make sure the cable's nice and flat and not twisted up. That's good. And then I'll go ahead and put just a dab of glue under each side of the cable on the front and back. Like so. And then I'll also just do one more little dab of glue underneath the foam, just to keep that foam in place. Alright, so this one is together. We'll go ahead and check our flap functions one more time, just to make sure our up and down works correctly, side to side, and then our air flap in the back opens up correctly and shuts. And then we'll go ahead and plug it in one more time before we install it in the vehicle, just to make sure that our cable didn't get messed up or anything while we were doing the installation. It looks like we're good here. Both buttons work, everything's working, and this one's ready to go in the vehicle. Let us know what you guys think about these videos. We want these to be very helpful so that you guys can have as much information as possible. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at P3Gauges. You can leave any comments, suggestions, questions down below in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and like us, and you can check out all our products at p3gauges.com. Thanks, guys.